What's up? It's your girl Ashley Style, and I'm back with another video. And basically, so during the pandemic, I have been trying to get some of my health issues evaluated. This video is about something that I've been dealing with for a long time. This channel is going to be very random until life is back to normal. I kind of, don't have a sense of normalcy to my life right now. But anyway, moving on. This video is my fibroid story. I was going to make a video about my insomnia and daytime sleepiness and having to have a sleep study and blah 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 blah. I will still be making a video about that. Maybe that'll be the next video, but right now this is kind of more pressing on my mind because it's something that I'm currently having to make some decisions about. So without further ado, this is my fibroid story.
Chuki got the sauce, bitch.
Okay guys, so without further ado, let's get started. Basically, a fibroid is a non-cancerous growth that grows in a woman's uterus. Usually they grow during childbearing years, so anytime from once you first have your period until menopause. I think they can also grow in women older, but it's less frequent. Also, they're more prevalent in African American women, and there's not really an answer as to A, why we get fibroids, period, B, why they're more prevalent in African American women. I have my own theories on that, but because there hasn't been enough studies done, I have a feeling that it has something to do with talcum powder. Don't ask me why, but that's my theory. But anyway, that is what a fibroid is. And usually for most women, fibroids do not cause you any issues. You really probably wouldn't even know you had them unless they caused you a problem. They can cause a lot of problems, which I'm going to get into later in this video, because I'm going to tell you how I found out I had fibroids and kind of what got me to the point where I am right now. So when I was in college, it had to be my junior or senior year. Even before that, okay, let's rewind. I always have had really bad menstrual periods, meaning really bad pain as well as a lot of bleeding. So that bleeding causes anemia, and it's just, it sucks basically. So I would tell my gynecologist about these issues. I would be told basically, this is normal. Your options are to take birth control, which will help with the periods. Okay, so at this point in time, this is before the junior year. This is like my freshman and sophomore years of college. When I would go and get my annual pap smear, where they check to make sure you don't have any abnormal cells on in your uterus, you don't have any, STDs, etc., etc. So when I would go and get that, it would be a very stressful situation. I'll talk about that later anyway. So basically, fast forward, at that time I decided to get on the birth control because it was unbearable. And I was not even having sex at the time. I had not even lost my virginity, but I was taking birth control. So I did that for about 2 years. Actually longer than that, but I did that for about 2 years. Did my symptoms improve? No. They did not improve at all. So there's that. And then the second year I was put on a birth control that allows you to skip your periods. And so taking that, I did have an improvement in my symptoms because I wasn't having my period. I would still have some of the symptoms, like you know, you would have the symptoms come on, like your period was gonna come on, but it wouldn't. So I would have some symptoms, but nothing bad. Like my periods used to be so bad, I would throw up. I would be physically ill every time. So fast forward 2 years later, 2 or 3 years later, this was sophomore or junior year of college, I had a menstrual cycle for 2 months straight. Literally every single day for damn near 60 days, I was bleeding. Now your menstrual cycle is more than just your period, the part where you're bleeding, but I literally was bleeding for 2 months straight. And because so many doctors had just basically said like, this is normal, blah, 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 I really just kind of was like, this is something I have to deal with. So the school that I went to in my last 2 years of college is an HBCU. Shout out to the HBCUs. But they had a women's clinic. So I went to the women's clinic, and just because it was just, I was losing my fucking mind at that point. Like, having had this for 2 months, like, just imagine it. Your regular period is bad. Just like, what? So I go, I tell the lady what's going on. An African American gyno, and she basically says, wait, what? what how long have you been dealing with these issues? So I explained to her, like, you know, it's been like maybe 4 years at this point, blah, 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 but all my life, this is how my periods are, this is how long they are. My periods were about 14 days long anyway. So she referred me, she said, this is not normal. You do not have to, you know, something is wrong. That's not normal. So she referred me to a specialist. She is no longer a practicing gynecologist. She just works at the women's clinic only. So she sent me to a specialist. At this point, all of my doctors in my life have been made black females. My mom structured it that way. I'm not, you know, now I understand being an adult why she did the things she did, but I didn't understand. Wasn't even cognizant of it at the time. Everyone but my original gyno, the ones who had kind of been telling me that there was nothing that I could do. So she sends me to a specialist. I go and see the specialist. He gets me to get an ultrasound done of my abdomen and my uterus, my pelvis, and comes back that I have 18 fibroids. 18 fibroid tumors growing in my uterus, and they're basically like, this is the reason why you're having excessive bleeding and pain, basically. So at that point, I'm extremely young. I haven't had any children. The prognosis was basically like, listen, we're gonna put you on a really, 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 really old birth control, and this will either help stop them from growing, or keep them at the same size. Okay, so I get on this old birth control, and it worked fine. I was on it over 10 years. I can't even think, because that would have been 2007-ish, and I got off it when I came here, which was 2014. So about 13 years. 13 years I took this birth control. When I came to New York, I stopped taking it because I quit my job, so I did not have insurance. Okay, so once I started working again, got my insurance together, blah 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 blah, I went to my doctor, got back on the pill, nothing major. It wasn't until then that I realized that the pill had been impacting my mental status, not like depression or craziness or whatever the hell. It was more like a mild melancholy. Like, it made me feel very sad. It affected my sex drive, and I didn't want to go back. My doctor was basically like, we can try another one. So tried another one. I had the same effect, and I would have not known the difference because I had been on it for so long. So basically my doctor was like, are you sexually active? At the time I was not. So she said, hey, do you want to just take a break? Allow your body to breathe. Da, 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 da. So I did. And I have not been back on birth control since then because I enjoy having a good clear head. You know what I mean? I don't want to be depressed. I like sex. I don't want to, you know, not have the desire, basically. So I've never gone back on it. So fast forward. 2 years ago, I started having a weird sickness. After my period, I didn't notice right away that it was always after my period. My mother noticed, but what would happen is I would get really sick. Like damn near couldn't get out of bed sick after my period. I would have a headache. I would be nauseous. I would have the most severe bloating of life. I would literally be bedbound after my periods. And I would, at first it started off rather mild and then it progressively got worse. And then I didn't really catch on that I would say this, but every single month I would say this. And my mom would be like, my mom one day was like, you know, you say this every month after your period. And I'm like, is it? And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pay attention. So the 2 months after that, I paid attention, and it definitely was, sorry, fixing my thing, after my period. Okay, so I was like, oh, that's weird. I'll ask my doctor about it. So I did ask her, and she told me, listen, it sounds like you could be having ovulation sickness, but you should get with, you should have an ultrasound because you've had fibroids in the past. Let's just make sure everything is okay down there. Okay, so I get the order and found out how much the damn ultrasound cost and was like, you know what, it's really not that bad. I'll be okay. So I just continued to deal with the sickness for about another year. Okay, so what happened, and I travel a lot for work. Well, when I was working, I would travel a lot for work. So what happens is I started being terrified to have to travel because I knew that my period was gonna get me or the sickness was gonna get me, and I was gonna have to work through it, and it wasn't really something that you could work through. So I remember packing my things to go to Atlanta and was like, listen, I do not want to go on this trip because I know I'm gonna get sick. So at that point I was like, this is really an issue. I really need to find out what's going on. So I went back to my doctor again, and she was like, oh, I put an order in for you a year ago. You need to get this done. Again, I didn't because listen, it's expensive. I live in New York. All my money is spoken for. So what happened was, literally maybe a couple of weeks after I saw her, I started to have a pain in my pelvis on my right side, like a thumping pain, constant pain. And I'm like, what is that? It freaked me out. And I was like, hell no. I'm terrified that something is really wrong in there. I'm gonna get this ultrasound. I'm sorry. So I didn't. So anyway, I go and get the ultrasound. When I tell you that the lady at so my doctor was out. She had a family emergency. She was out of the practice. I'm sorry. I need some water. Anyway, so my doctor was out of the practice, and so there was someone handling her patients. When I tell you, the people called me the very same day that I got the ultrasound, and I knew at that point that something was wrong, because it's like, they never do that. They, you know, I really need some water, y'all. Sound crazy. Let me get some water. Okay, I'm back. So after wait, let me fix myself up here. All right. I'm back. So someone calls me. I'm at work at this point, leaves me a voicemail, and is like, call us as soon as you get this message. And I was like, oh my God, like terrified. All kind of crazy things start running through my head. So obviously in my work, so I can't just call back right away. By the time I got an opportunity to call them back, they had already sent me a my chart message letting me know, like, hey, we got the results of your ultrasound. There's some issues there. We need you to go in and get a, what's it called? Is it an MRI? An MRI. Okay. Whew, this takes a lot of vulnerability to talk about this because it's really personal, and you know, for a long time I didn't even tell anybody because not that I was embarrassed, but when it comes to your womanhood, it's a sensitive area. It's already a sensitive area for me because I'm older and I have not had children, and I know that the clock is ticking. I know that. So I'm already having a lot of anxiety around that and finding a partner and making myself stable before I decide to have children, because children ain't free. Not at all. Nobody. Who gonna pay for them? Who? So basically the scan revealed that I forgot to mention this. During the period when I got on the birth control, and between then and when I came to New York, what happened was a lot of my fibroids somehow combined into two really large ones, right? And then one of them kind of broke up, as I don't know, but I didn't have it. I came into New York in a better situation than the 18 that I left with, okay? So I had a scan when I first got here and revealed that I had about 4 at that time. Okay, so anyway, the scan revealed that I had 7, some really, really, really large ones. Submucosal, most of them. One of them is not. Submucosal means that they are basically mostly on the outside of the uterus and not in the inner wall. So I had 2 cysts, one on each ovary, which required me to get an additional type of scan. I don't remember what it's called, but basically it was really, really terrifying, guys, because they had to stick a needle up in my hoo-ha and in my vagina. You know what I'm saying? They did it, but it was so painful. And they filled my abdomen up with water, and then some kind of way looked at it and were able to detect that it was not something harmful. The cysts were there was a mass on one of my ovaries, okay, and a cyst on the other. So at this point, they're like, you need to go and see another specialist, and I do. And the specialist says, you need surgery. And I say, oh wow, okay, you know, I'm blown away by this, blah, 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 blah. They wanted me to do some additional tests and things. I did. I come back. Okay, so, sorry. I had to delete some space on my camera. Alright, so fast forward. Where was I? Yes, so the doctor says you need surgery. I go and get some additional testing scans. I get a biopsy. Most painful thing you've ever had in your life. A biopsy in your hoo-ha. Trust me. Okay, guys, so I just wanted to let you know really quickly, I will include footage, or audio, I should say, from when I got my most recent biopsy, because I had to get another one, and it was horrible. You can literally hear me crying audibly on the audio footage. Obviously, I couldn't take video because I had it done in a hospital, and you know, they don't allow cameras in there. But yes, I will include that, even though it's like, you know, whatever. But just wanted to let you know, if you stay tuned to the end, I will add that footage on. So biopsy comes back good. It's no cancer cells there. and the doctor asked me a series of questions related to you know, childbirth, kids, etc. Once we had that questionnaire, it was decided that I would wait, because it's better if you have a full uterus when you have some kids. Okay, so, and I do want to have children, so that was that. So I actually went and got a second opinion, and the second opinion said the same thing. Okay, and at that time I was like, oh cool. They put me on a high calcium regimen, and started me on a series of painkillers that I take specifically for my period. And I start to take them before my period starts, and I take them approximately a day before my period starts and the first 2 days. And so that definitely helped with the period pain. I also have done something recently to help, and I'll talk about that in a second, but I'll talk about everything in order basically. So okay, I actually ended up going back to the specialist that back home that had given me my original diagnosis, just for another opinion, and let me tell you why. My symptoms got worse. Okay, I started to have increased sickness, worse periods. I began to be extremely bloated. Like, it's not even really bloating, honestly. It looks like I'm pregnant. I'm very good at hiding it, because I mean, I know how to dress for my body, but it started off being like, sometimes it looks okay, girl, sis, you working it, and then other times it's like, ooh, when are you having that baby? And it began to depress me, and there was nothing that I could do about it, because I really want to be a mother. So I pushed through. Okay, then the final straw for me was I began to not be able to fully control my bladder, because the fibroids were putting so much pressure on my bladder that now my young cute ass cannot cough, laugh, or anything without peeing on myself, you know. And it was so embarrassing, like so embarrassing. So I said, no, there has to be something else besides a surgery that I can do. So went and saw my guy, and my guy was like, listen, boo, you know, I wish that there was something else that I could do for you, but until you have these babies, it's best for the babies if you keep everything intact. Okay, and right now, even though they're causing you a lot of issues, if you can bear through these issues, it's better. Okay, so I did two things. I tried to eat a better diet that would, there's studies showing that your diet really affects how these things grow. You know, certain non-alkaline foods, y'all know, Dr. Sebi's diet. So I mean, you know, I made some efforts to do it. You know, I would be off and on. I probably did it really well for a good 2 months, and then I was kind of like, hey, sometimes I would do better. I would make a conscious choice to avoid specific foods that my doctor told me, like, no, like milk and dairy, and I definitely would avoid that at all costs. But you know, some stuff has dairy in it that you don't prepare. So other than that, I would try to avoid dairy cooking on my own. Red meat, all of that good stuff. So I did that, and for a while, and then I fell off the wagon, and More recently, my symptoms have gotten better. They really have. I am able to, I'm still sick, but not as sick. Like, it's more of a bearable sickness. With the bladder situation, I went to see a therapist for my back, and he recommended that I go and see a pelvic floor specialist. I would recommend this to any woman. It has been amazing. She has been able to help me. It's very uncomfortable, I will be honest with you, but the results are worth it, because I've gone in the moments where I know that I feel a certain amount of pain, and she has been able to go inside and massage and smooth and move things around so that things flow better, and it has been really good. I would recommend it to every woman. It has been great. Okay, so then I got another symptom. Well, I had two other symptoms. I began to have severe constipation, like not constipation like I can't poop, but you can't fully empty your bowels, which is an issue. Then I began to not be able to work out like fully, because there would be this hard mass. It would be almost like I swallowed an entire huge half of a brick, and I could not lay on my stomach. I could not do anything related to my stomach because the brick would be right there hitting, and it would be terrible. So finally, then the pandemic hit, because I wanted to follow up on this, like, wow, what is really going on with my stomach? Pandemic hit. Okay, so I had to sit my you know what down for a while. Then when the doctors opened back up, more recently, a week ago, I went, saw my doctor. I made the appointment months ago, but you know how that go. Talked to her about the boulder, the rock that's in my stomach, and she said, okay, let's take a look. I told her how my symptoms were going, about the pelvic floor specialist. She was like, all of those things sound good. Let's see what's going on inside. She touches my stomach and says, yeah, I can tell you right now, things have changed inside of you. And I'm like, okay. So she's like, let me, we go through the full exam. And she says, I feel like you have not only gotten more fibroids, I suspect, but I also suspect that the ones you have gotten much larger. I don't suspect it. She's like, I know. You can literally feel the fibroids through my skin. She's like, the hard rock you're feeling is your uterus with fibroids. So prior to this, it's been about a year since I saw her and got my second opinion and decided we were going to wait. From then to now, this is what has happened. These are the changes it's been a year and a half, I think, exactly. And prior to, they were saying that my uterus was so enlarged that it was considered a 4-month pregnancy. That's the size of my uterus. Now, it's basically, they're saying like a 6-month pregnancy, okay? Which is completely and utterly visible. I will not show you. It is embarrassing. Again, I know how to cover my body in a way that you cannot see it, but it's embarrassing, and it's stressful, because like, I ain't had no kids yet. Damn, can I at least enjoy the little body that I got, So basically it's at a point where I need to have surgery. And it's scary. It's a scary idea, because anything can go wrong with surgery in general. But if something goes wrong in this surgery, I will have to have, it's a possibility I won't be able to have children, or I would have to have a hysterectomy, or I could bleed to death. There's just so many things that could happen. My bigger fear than all of that is not being able to have children, because that's not the life that I've pictured for myself, and I'm trying to really curb a lot of my thoughts. I know some people are not religious and whatever, but I am religious and I do believe in, I'm not religious. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. And God promised me a son. And so I'm holding on to the fact that I'm going to have that son. And I'm probably going to cut this out of this video because it's too personal. But God promised me something and I'm believing in him for it. And that's basically where I'm at. The next steps are I have to get another biopsy. I am dreading this biopsy. Y'all, this thing, I was crying. They only give you ibuprofen. Baby, I was on the table in tears. Is it over? Because it was so bad. So I have to have another biopsy just to make sure nothing is cancerous. And then I have another second opinion. And really, the second opinion is going to confirm with my doctor. Because basically what they're saying is the reason why they're pulling the trigger, even though the symptoms have gotten better, because the fibroids have grown so large that they are now up to my belly button. If I wait even longer and they continue to grow, which it appears they will, I will have to have a really, really intense surgery to where they will cut me from my from the top of my belly button down. Right now it's in a place where it can still be managed with minimal cutting. Okay, so the second opinion will decide if I have to pull the trigger now, if I in fact do have to pull the trigger now, what type of surgery I'm eligible for. There's multiple types of surgery. There is laparoscopic, there is robotic. They are all called myomectomies. There's open abdomen myomectomy. So 2 doctors have pretty much already told me, like, yeah, you're not a candidate for a laparoscopic myomectomy just because of the size of the fibroids. So they're literally 2 that are the size of a grapefruit. And then there's a bunch of ones that are like smaller, like golf ball size. And so they're basically saying, like, if you get it done laparoscopically, they have to break them up. And so you have a really, really long surgery because I have a lot of fibroids. So basically the doctor is going to confirm whether or not. I would prefer to have it laparoscopically. Obviously I want to do the safest thing for my life. I don't want to die, because they're saying blood loss becomes an issue if you're on the table for many hours. There's different recoveries. If I have it laparoscopically, I can leave the same day, pretty much recovered the next day. If I have open abdomen, I have to be hospitalized. I will be in the hospital for several days. I get out and I will have a longer recovery time, like a week or so, maybe even longer than I think. So that is where we are, and I just wanted to share this experience because it has really been, you know, something I dealt with alone, because I was not embarrassed, but I felt a sense of shame because this is my lady parts, you know what I'm saying? It took forever for me to tell my boyfriend. Like, I just didn't want nobody to know. Like, I didn't want him to think like, man, you know, she's, you know, not going to be able to have kids, you know, all that, which is still potentially a thing, and he's very aware of that. But I mean, really, forget him. It's not really about, he ain't my husband. So, you know, it's just been a lot. It's been a lot to deal with, mentally, physically, getting dressed, seeing my stomach, knowing what's going on, not being able to change anything about it. So I wanted to share my experience because I know there's other women out there who are dealing with this, because it's a huge problem amongst African American women. And I will keep you guys posted on what the doctors say, the results of my biopsy, my second opinion, what I decide to do, and hopefully, God willing, you know, I don't have a hysterectomy or any crazy, you know, results, and I'm able to push forward and tell you guys how things have gone. Now I do have a very close family member of mine who had the surgery, and she highly recommended it. My roommate also, my housemate, sorry, not my roommate, but my housemate also had the surgery. She highly recommended it. They have had a great change in their quality of life, and I'm hoping to have the same result. I'm just a lot terrified of having a surgery. And yeah, that's it. So guys, I'm just sharing my story. Hopefully somebody else can relate and not feel alone in this world. If you have any questions that I can answer, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just sharing my story. I will respond if you need encouragement. If you want to encourage me, pray for me, please do. Please do. That is it. So the next video after this will either be a follow-up to, oh, my battery's up now. It's gonna be a follow-up to the second opinion and the biopsy, or it will be the information about my sleep story, which is a crazy, so interesting, my story with sleep and how I used to pray for my dreams to go away because they're so crazy. But anyway, that will be either the next video or the video after that. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned, and hopefully everything in this pandemic can get back to normal so we can start living life and I can give you guys some really normal content. But this is where we are right now. I'm sharing my life and I got the time. Bye, YouTube. It's D-Day. Time for this painful ass biopsy. I hate this. It's so painful. I want my mama.
This is a surgical consent. I don't expect you to faint or have excessive pain or excessive bleeding. I don't expect to resuscitate you or do anything crazy. But if we're gonna look at doing surgery, again, if these were like an inch or two, I would say leave them alone. Don't, less is more.
Yeah.
But they're already 3 inches. I just have a feeling they're gonna grow bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, based on how they have grown in the
Right.
past. Yeah.
Right. So I just
if I do have to do open,
right.
what's the recovery time like that on that? Wait, where am I signing?
Here.
Here.
Up to, so it can be up to 4 weeks.
Okay. And would I need someone to care for me? Or would I
The
be able to
first
care
few
for
days.
myself?
You
Just the
should
first
be
few
able
days?
to, but the first few days, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because my mom could
Yeah.
fly down.
Yeah. Sam? Okay.
Time?
All right. When was your last period? Okay. So, no, you're squeezing, which is gonna make it more. See. Okay. Listen to me. The more you relax, don't think about what I'm doing, because I'll tell you what I'm doing. This is iodine, betadine, okay? Just to minimize the risk of infection, okay? Try not to you're squeezing your bottom. Okay? No, you're fine. It's a self-protective item. I get it. If you want to protect yourself. Oh, do me a favor. That chlamydia gonorrhea thing? Is it a swabby? I throw it out. I'll send the urine out instead. Okay, you did the urine dip, right? So just send that out because blood on the thing is not. Okay, I need you to open your legs a little bit more. Thank you. When did you say your last period was?
October 28th.
Okay. You're gonna feel a little pinch now, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good. You okay? Okay. Okay, a little bit of, I need to open up the cervix a little bit. Good. Just so I can get it. You're doing fine. Almost done, okay? What's the matter? Talk to me. so sorry. Crampy, crampy. Sorry. October 20th, you said?
28.
28. Okay. Hold it for a minute. Are you okay? I'm almost done, dear.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see. Should be able to go deeper. Are you feeling cramping, or what are you feeling when I... What?
It hurts.
I'm sorry. What do you feel, cramping or throbbing or... I need more tissue than this, I apologize. I'm almost done, okay? What are you doing for Thanksgiving? What did you do for Halloween? I need you to open your legs. Please, I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. Can you tolerate me one last time, or you have to... No?
Oh my God.
Last time. Can you do it or no?
I don't want to, but I will.
You tell me. I don't want to force anything on you. Can you take it one last time?
I have a little bite like I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Let's. What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it's nothing.
You're gonna do the Thanksgiving through Zoom?
Yeah. I need to do it.
Okay. Okay. That's it. Okay. Everything coming out. Okay. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna take it out. Give me my speculum back. Can you open your legs? Okay. Okay, that's it. Let me wash everything. Hold on. Okay, open your legs again. I'm just gonna wash the betadine. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that it's causing you discomfort. Lift your bottom, please. We're done. We'll get better and better, okay? I'm sorry I caused you this discomfort. No, it's not okay. I can't, it's hard for me to tell how everybody's gonna react. But it's understandable. Unfortunately, it was a necessary evil.
Yeah.